Ebony, I invited you here to talk about your favorite skill, which
Hmm.
obviously is so. Ebony is a DB. Do you want to introduce yourself and give them your accolades? Um,
Oh, well, yes. First of all, thank you so much for giving me this space. And yes, my name is Ebony Webb, and I am a DBT therapist. I do all things DBT, as well as, looking through the lens of trauma, both through DBT and sensory motor psychotherapy. That share very common threads, I think. There's a very strong lineage between the two. Um, I don't know. I've always loved DBT. I kind of started my training in DBT, working with youth across the lifespan. It's such a beautiful modality. And um, Diana is so creative in her approach to DBT. I couldn't help but, uh, you know, jump onto her bandwagon because she makes DBT, I would say, even more fun. And Diana, we're not going to talk about the Linehan folks, right? We're not going
yeah.
to like tell them that, but she's so much fun, and creative in a way that I think I'm always attracted to DBT that is real world. That's really something that everyone can sink their teeth into and see how it works for them.
Beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Cool. So, okay, I was very, very excited when I asked you the question about what skill you'd want to talk about,
Yes.
and you quoted Audre Lorde.
Yes.
And talked
Yes.
about self-care, radical self-care as an act of resistance. And I was like, oh, okay, Ebony's going to have a really interesting perspective on the please.
Hmm.
So maybe
Hmm.
we can start by, just for anyone who doesn't know, you want to tell them what the please skill is and what emotional vulnerability factors are, and then go into your deep dive.
Ooh, I'm getting tested for certification tonight. Yes. So, um, well, the way I think about this when we're talking about this skill in DBT, one of the major aims and goals of emotion regulation is to reduce our vulnerability to kind of emotional dysregulation through self-care. Okay. Self-care of the body is emotions are housed in the body. So, how we treat our body, so our emotions go. And when we think about the factors that can reduce our ability to regulate our emotions, we can look at, our biology. And I love that that's like the first thing we have to talk about is, the biology, chemistry, hormones, all of those pieces. And then right alongside it is, how did the social environment kind of shape around that biology? And, we know a lot of people who are drawn to DBT or referred have very high affect. So their body is always humming, everything feels much higher than everyone around them. And the social environment often doesn't know how to welcome that. They typically welcome it through punishment. Um, and so that again feeds the beast of dysregulation, right? Just even for many people who have high affect, maybe that was the only time that people attended to them. So they don't know any other way. And then we have a storm that kind of rolls all through our system when we can be dysregulated. And then there's stories that we tell ourselves about our emotions. And this is why I love that the plea skills kind of cuts through all of that to create an opportunity for a new story to emerge.
Ooh,
Did I
okay.
do
I
okay?
love that.
Did I do okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So just to go super basic, though, we're
Yeah.
talking about your physical health, like illness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
We're
Yes.
talking about eating a balanced diet.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about getting enough sleep. We're talking about getting exercise and taking medication as prescribed, avoiding mood altering drugs.
Avoiding mood altering drugs. Yes.
It's really
Mm-hmm.
like, like if you had a Ferrari and you wanted to make sure that it was always well taken care of because it's such an expensive and valuable machine,
That's right.
right? And so we're like getting the oil changes, putting in the right fuel, doing all the things to
Mm-hmm.
run as optimally as possible.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I think, the hard part is when you have either high affect or which we know at least.
Just to clarify, high affect is
Yes.
people who are super emotional.
Yes. Super emotional, right? Right.
Those of
So
us who have big feelings,
that's
right?
right. That's right. And, I think our emotional state can run that spectrum. There are people who have very low affect, low
Mhm.
emotionality to high emotionality. And here's the kind of middle ground for both of those states is that there's a lot of anxiety, right? Because there's a lot of discomfort on both sides, either it's socially or biologically, right? And so the please skills, I always say these are just our daily vitamins. Okay. Just the daily vitamins that we need to take to care for our body well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for too long, we've talked about emotions as almost like philosophical concepts versus physiological realities. And so, right. And the ancients knew this, right? They would talk about connecting emotions with the organs. And so now we're kind of coming full circle to understand,
Really interesting.
yes,
Okay, so
right?
are you talking about like that sort of mind-body separation
Yes,
and
absolutely.
how your emotions are living up in some sort of ethereal plane and they're
That's right.
not related to like being hangry because you're hungry?
That's right. That's
What,
right.
so if they I'm wondering what the ancients were saying about like which emotion lived in which organ.
Oh, well, yeah. So often the association with fear was attached to the kidneys, which we understand because of adrenals now, right? They
Oh,
also believe that anger was stored in the liver and the bile. And
uh-huh.
so, right. And so it's so fascinating that what they saw without instruments, science has come full circle to really talk about,
That's
right?
insane.
So, and so that's why when I work with my clients, I'll say how you treat your body will very much determine how you will understand the language of your body, which I define as our emotions. Our emotions are our body's messengers. We have to learn how to develop emotional fluency, right?
Mhm.
And there are so many reasons why so many clients who come to DBT have lost the language of their body, right? They've lost
I
that spigot.
love this term, the language of the
Mm-hmm.
body.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're like, this is how our bodies talk to us.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
through emotions. They let us know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on, what we need. Is
That's
that
right.
what you're saying?
Yes, that's right. And when you're talking about that connection, I always say that the mind is the language of the brain. So we've got to learn the language there. And
Okay.
then the emotions are the language of the body. So that's why we need to unify them.
Okay.
And the way through is self-care of the body,
Mhm.
right? It is a natural response from us if we're in a state of discomfort to avoid that discomfort,
Oh yeah, that is for
right?
sure, right?
Right?
I
That's
mean,
what we do.
that's like half of being a modern human is figuring out how to be more comfortable,
That's
right? How to
right.
get more comfortable? How can my bed be more comfortable? How can my clothes be more comfortable? How can the temperature be more comfortable?
That's right. And so what happens when, as we're talking about having high emotionality that feels very uncomfortable in the body, right, is
Mhm.
what we're trying to escape,
Mhm. Mm.
right? And so how do we ask someone to come gently back into their body? And
Mm.
so when I talk about plea skills, this is the self-care. We're going to learn how to nurture our way back to the language of our body, right? Recognizing that it's uncomfortable. Um, Many of my clients, as we just detailed the plea skills, a lot of the ways that they were punished for their emotionality was in those areas, right? Neglect of health, neglect of diet, right? Either
Mm.
restriction or
Mm.
forced eating. I mean, horrible stories, right?
Mm.
Using drugs to cope through things that have felt painful.
Yeah.
And sleep and exercise always get compromised when those first three are not there.
Mm.
And exercise, I think, from our research, is the magic pill of mental health. If there is one out of all these, it is exercise.
Yeah, I remember going to a training where they said that you can get the same effect from regular daily exercise that you get from an SSRI,
That's
from
correct.
antidepressant.
That's correct.
If you're
So,
exercising like a good aerobic hour a
mm-hmm,
day,
mm-hmm,
that is the same impact on your serotonin levels as an
mm-hmm.
SSRI.
There was a very interesting study done out of Harvard Medical, and this was a little bit back, but they compared, anxiety and depression in the different forms of exercise. Now, I don't think we should be surprised that cardio was very effective for anxiety,
Mhm.
right? But what I thought was very interesting from this study was even just 20 minutes of cardio with the patients that they studied, and they had them rate their anxiety before getting onto the treadmill for about 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Um, it took 4 to 6 hours past the 20-minute exercise for them to return to the anxiety level that they reported before getting on the treadmill.
So interesting. The other thing that I had heard is that because cardio has the same symptoms as an anxiety attack,
Mm-hmm.
it helps normalize for your body that like being really sweaty and short of breath and flushed
Mm-hmm.
is actually not necessarily a danger signal. So I
That's
thought
right. That's
interesting.
right. And so some of the work can be is that we've got to take our emotions and unpair them from our survival defenses. So people with panic, right? It's not just, I'll say just, but it's not simply the emotion of fear, right? It's fear attached to flight,
Mhm.
or fear attached to freeze.
Mhm.
But when we're exercising, and I really tell my clients, I just want you to move because that's your body is designed to move,
Mhm.
right? They always say, like, if ancient tribal man saw us in gyms, they would be questioning, what are we doing? Is there a tiger in the room? What's going on? Why are we like practicing surviving? But, it's more so just move your body. That's
Mhm.
what your body, is really designed to do. And that is how we can reset a lot of things that have become overactive in the system.
Mhm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So we've got exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tend to preach about mood altering drugs because personally
Yes.
I'm sober because I feel like this is a lot to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I do it better sober.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we've got that element of the avoiding mood altering drugs, or the flip
Mm-hmm.
side of it that I like to teach is, hey, and if you did have a night of drinking, just know that when you wake up really depressed the next day or the day
Mm-hmm.
after that,
Mm-hmm.
that you're in the after effect of consuming a depressant. And I
Yes.
feel like that kind of mindfulness is really important because, some of our clients will move into like a suicidal depression when they
Yes.
wake up feeling that low,
Mm-hmm.
feel
Mm-hmm.
really hopeless about life. And you're
Yes. Well, and I'd love to, I mean, can we kind of pair the mood altering drugs with balanced eating? You
Oh, sure.
know, yeah, because I love how first Janina Fisher talks about addiction as the externalized parent. Because
Okay, wait. Now you got to really explain that. I've not heard that before.
yeah, so she talks about, the drug of choice that an individual has, and she talks about the wisdom of survival, and that the what almost comforting or even anesthetizing
Mm,
hormones that come from mood altering drugs is the parent that we never had for many people. And so she calls that the externalized parent.
So
However,
it's like the
it
soothing,
nurtures, it
the
soothes.
soothing,
Yes,
ensuring that, or like the all the dopamine that you would get if
that's
your parent
right.
gave you a hug or
Yep.
approval,
Yes.
and then you're just flooding yourself
You're
with that.
flooding yourself with it, right? And at the beginning of her work, she will tell them, good for you for figuring out how to survive. And when I brought that in teaching the please skills, there was in a parent skills group, there was one parent who was like, I totally get that. If I had not,
Yeah.
I'm sober now, but if I had not gotten that at the time that I was going through what I was going through, I would not be here today. And
Yeah.
so, you know, when I teach about avoiding mood altering drugs, the first question I want them to have, and it's similar to the one about balance eating,
Mhm.
are you eating or using this to feel alive or to feel dead? And that's
Oh,
an
wait, wait.
important piece.
Pause, pause.
Yeah.
Oh, anyone feel free to be in the chat, people.
So,
If that just kind of like, I don't know, I felt that like a lightning bolt. Are you using substances to feel alive or to feel dead?
well, and if you want to pursue that more, go to the work of Janine Roth because she's fantastic in talking about this emotional eating. What am I putting this in my body to deaden something that I can't tolerate anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or do I feel dead all the time and I'm trying to have something to
That
bring
makes you
me to
feel
life? That's
alive.
right. That's right. You know,
Jeffrey, if you want to put your question in the chat, and then what I was thinking is we'll do 10 more minutes of Ebony and I chatting, and then we'll open it up for questions. So
I
we'll put
mean,
your questions in the chat.
I hope you all have 5 hours because that's what she means by 10 minutes by inviting me. So, no, but it's just that. And I think that hangs on both of it because when you can answer that question, no matter vulnerably and authentically, it can inform what you put into your body, you know?
Mhm.
Um, it could be the same as, am I trying to kind of anesthetize myself?
Mhm.
Am I trying to aliven myself?
Mhm.
Our body is always seeking to live. It just is. This is how we're designed, right? Again, so for deadening something, I want my clients just to be, I'm not saying you can't have chocolate cake or you can't have, these things that, that you enjoy. It's just carrying within you the why. Why am
Mhm.
I, right? Being intentional and conscious. If I'm going to eat that cake, I'm going to eat that cake with full intensity and consciousness. But if I,
I guess is what's the ideal? Like, are we trying to switch to eating to be alive or to feel, or are we looking, is it like a middle path thing?
I think
What's
it's
the
a middle path thing, right? Because we know people who also get very dysregulated if food is not clean enough, right? So that can be just as much of an issue. It's finding the middle ground, right? Really honoring, does my body feel alive with this food,
Mm,
right? And I think there's a difference between aliven and alive. Aliven assumes death, right? Something has been deadened, or
yeah.
numbed, right? But I think about food. How can I eat in a way that sustains me,
Mhm.
right?
Maybe that like brings liveliness,
That
like
brings liveliness.
brings
Yes,
energy.
that's right. That's right. And it is hard when we get to mood altering drugs because some clients will say, oh, yeah, well, I don't do anything like that. I don't do anything illegal. But we do talk a lot about legal drugs that have, or foods or substances that are
Mm.
legal. Caffeine is legal, nicotine is legal.
Sugar's
Um,
legal.
that's
I don't know
right.
if you've heard, but
We
they
talk
legalized sugar.
and they talk about, I tell people, like, if you don't think that simple sugars are a drug, try to detox yourself off of them. I mean,
Mhm.
it was a nightmare in the Webb household when I did the last time. I'm just saying, sugars in everything. And
Mm.
again, we're not going to vilify any of these things.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just about recognizing my why. What is my why?
And I feel like also like really recognizing the impact that these things have, like the, I mean, like what is an unskillful behavior? It's really just a behavior that has a negative impact on your life,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And
Yes.
so, what is there a negative impact that's coming out of this thing?
Hmm.
This way of medicating my feelings or deadening my feelings or resurrecting myself from a feeling of deadness.
That's right. And I think we do have to question too, if I have a condition,
Mm,
right? Um, why am I consuming something that actually feeds the condition, right?
mm,
So I do tell my clients, I know that you want to keep drinking. However, here's the issue I have that we've got to find some type of middle on is you have depression and you're consuming a depressant, right? You know, how do we not feed the beast? And that's the big thrust when I teach these skills is we are going to starve our symptoms and feed our skills. And,
mm,
and in doing that, that's another part of that foundation to building a life worth living. Um, But I'll, on top of that, I will say these skills will help you recognize you are worthy to live, you know? And
Mm.
so that's a big part of why I just love teaching. Please
So,
go.
okay, wait a minute. So these skills, these self-care skills, which is
Mm-hmm.
the body maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
the body nurturing maybe is even better.
Mm-hmm.
How does doing that teach us that we deserve to do it? I feel like there's some kind of cycle in there. What
Yeah.
thought about that?
So can I talk about like self-care as this kind of
Oh,
resistance and political warfare?
yes. I think
Yeah.
that's really exciting, actually.
Yes. So I want to quick give context because I want to get to the questions and everything. So that quote comes from Audre Lorde, who was a feminist, African American feminist, well into the 70s and 80s. And that quote came at a time when her cancer had spread into her liver.
Mm,
And she has a book of essays called A Burst of Light. And she has her journal entries from the time that she was diagnosed with liver cancer, which I believe was more of just breast cancer that had metastasized, and
mhm.
her resistance to any treatment at that point. And it's beautiful, it's painful
Like
to
her body's resistant.
she decided not to do any treatment
Oh, she decided not to
because
do chemo and things like
she
that.
didn't want to cut into her liver. She thought if it is even benign, it might open something else up. But she also wanted to have a quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts touring all through Europe, meeting all these different women at different conferences. And in her diary, she's writing about how bad she's still feeling. She's so sick. She knows she's getting sicker. She knows her liver is enlarging. And by the end of the journal, she talks about I had to learn the difference between overextending myself and stretching myself. And that what she'd been doing was overextending,
Mm-hmm.
not taking care of herself,
Mm-hmm.
which was interfering with what her meaning and purpose was in life, even in the life that she had left. Right. And that's what I think is so important because when we're talking about all of this, DBT has this meaning and purpose focus
Mm-hmm.
to build a life worth living.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And at the same time, so many, we know about 80% of people with the diagnosis of BPD, borderline personality disorder, have come from PTSD and complex trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And trauma's, I think, primary principal theft is the idea that I was never supposed to survive, right? Somehow I did, but I was never supposed to,
Mm.
which is a common kind of refrain that Audre Lorde does in talking about African Americans in particular. We were never supposed to survive.
Mm.
And so this idea of caring for ourselves is in defiance of someone else's expectation that we were not supposed to survive, right? And finding our worth through caring for ourselves. And so she
Okay.
says that it's not self indulgence, it is self preservation,
Mm-hmm.
being able to preserve oneself in the face of so many oppressive engines saying that we were not supposed to survive. And that is how she calls that the act of political warfare. And I bring that to the work that I do because so many of our clients didn't expect to live, and building a life worth living almost feels so far away, right?
Mm.
I don't think you can build a life worth living if you don't believe that you're worthy to live.
Mm.
And so I want them to literally bite size these skills with this step. Like today, I'm going to eat something that honors my body because I'm worthy.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry.
It
I'm
is that
going,
thing. I
yeah.
feel like that's kind of like that opposite action thing
Mm-hmm.
of telling yourself, like the more that you actually tell yourself that you are worthy, the more
Yes,
you start to believe it over time,
that's
right? The
right.
little incremental behavioral changes in the brain.
That's right.
And I just am so struck, like deeply struck by like it's true. I've had so many clients who are like, I can't believe I'm still alive. I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm still here. Like I didn't think
Yes.
that was going to happen. And now
Mm-hmm.
what? Um, and
Yeah.
so this framing of that, trauma creates this internal, maybe subconscious belief
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to have survived that.
Yes. Yes. That's right. And so every step of the plea skills is it could be a self-care mantra, right? I
Yeah.
am worthy to move my body as I choose and in my own way,
Oh, I
right?
love the consent in that. Wait a minute.
Right?
I,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to like write this down somewhere. Okay. So I'm
Right?
worthy to move my body as I choose.
As I choose, right? I'm worthy to rest as I need,
I'm
right?
to rest as I need.
Mm-hmm. I am worthy to nourish and hydrate my body as I want,
I am worthy to nourish and hydrate my body as I want.
right? I take care of my body on a daily basis,
I take care
right?
of me on a daily basis.
Yes,
I want to make a month like a affirmation meditation
yes,
that's like the
yes.
affirmation meditation
I
sounds
even
so good.
sometimes say I daily treat my body with kindness and care, right? That's the treating the physical health, right? And then I only take in substances that honor my body. Right.
Ooh.
Yep. So, and I mean, let's just be real. I mean, sometimes, a little wine, I'm just saying, like mood altering drugs, but there are some health benefits to some things, but you still, does it honor your body?
See, I really love that because that's less about like restriction
That's right.
or what's good and what's bad, and more like in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
eh, does this honor like this sacred vessel that I live in here, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I love that idea of honoring. It's really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Yes. The plea skills are in truth the act of self-compassion as well,
Mhm.
coming alongside yourself, coming alongside your suffering with kindness and care. And so I think that weaves in what Janina Fisher talks about in terms of the externalized parent. We're bringing an internalized parental part in that's good through these skills and
Oh my
kind.
gosh, literally like a parent that's like,
Yeah,
okay, sweetie, it's time for bed.
that's
All
right.
right,
It's time for
sweetie, let's
bed.
eat your vegetables.
That's
Okay,
right.
let's go for a walk. All of that.
That's right. And the balance piece is, you know, eat what you want, right? Eat as much as you want
Mhm.
and know when you've had enough, right? Just like an attuned parent knows when their kiddo is full and when they've had enough, right? A caring, attuned parent. So, all right, I could go. I could go,
I
Diana. So,
love this. So beautiful. So yeah,
yeah.
let's open it up to some like I feel like so privileged. I'm like, okay, I set this up so I can ask all the questions initially. um when as they come into my mind, but let's open it up to everyone else. So you have a couple options. You can either type questions in the chat or you can raise your hand and actually speak your question, articulate your question. But we do have one question from from Jeffrey.
Mhm.
What would be an example of someone eating something to feel dead or to deaden themselves?
Yes. So that's a great question. So the way that I think about this is, let's say that you have been working all day, right? And you've decided what I have to do. I don't have time to eat, right? I'm not, I just, I've just got to keep going,
Mhm.
right? And as that energy starts to go down, maybe the hangriness comes in, but we're still so active. And for many people who are always pushing like that, they don't even know how to sense what rest feels in the body. What they've learned is what I can stuff myself so much with food that finally I basically go into the food coma, right? And so I'm just eating to anesthetize, to not feel all the stuff that I've been pushing away through the day just to be focused on everybody else but what my body's telling me. So
Mm.
that's what I think about in terms of I need to deaden that activation versus laying down and resting the body versus using food to rest the body, right?
Mm.
And obviously spreading food out throughout the day so that you're properly ready to rest. But many times people don't know how to sleep without having that late night binge because they've learned that that is what deadens. And here's the other piece of that. We do know that it is quite common for those who have come from sexual abuse that their cravings are typically around the times that they were abused. And so the food will start to mute that. You'll hear that quite frequently if you watch shows like My 600-Pound Life or people who've come from a lot of sexual trauma. The periods of time that they eat so much to deaden what's happening. And you see on the flip side, when they start, they can't eat as much, that all the emotions flood in. And thankfully, on that show, they do insist on many of them. You've got to start seeing your therapist. You're not going to make it through this. This is just a tool, but you've still got to do the work that has led you there. And it's not just, I like eating food. There's often something that's being deadened through that process.
So interesting. The time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The time frames. Yep. That's when you'll find that's when the cravings and that's when the trauma occurred.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Ani says, how do you frame Lexapro and Adderall in terms of mood altering drugs? I would argue that Lexapro and Adderall are two very different substances
Mm-hmm.
in that
Mm-hmm.
frame, but I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, so I really put when you have a diagnosis and a prescription for those drugs, I put those into treating physical illness and treating your body and the physical health because diagnostically, we're really looking at helping balance brain chemistry.
Mhm.
Where it can become an issue. Now, I don't think that Lexapro has any street value other than I'm I'm out of it if the pharmacy has like a, I need some because the pharmacy doesn't have it. Adderall definitely does. And that's where we can start to question what is the function of you using it on that level, right? And again, we may be trying to aliven something that, especially if we don't have the diagnosis, it's a stimulant. So it will also help stimulate. So we could ask, what am I seeking to stimulate? What am I seeking to stimulate that I can't without? Right. So we have to be cautious, obviously, if we are using it on kind of like the street level versus the prescriptive level for a condition that needs balancing.
Beautiful. That sounds very dialectical, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyone else have questions you want to ask while we've got our beautiful Ebony here? You can again type them in the, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yes.
This is really great, and I really am taking in a lot of what seems like wisdom and what you're speaking of. The one phrase that I kept struggling with was that phrase "building a life worth living,"
Mm-hmm.
because on one hand, I feel like we all have a right to be here,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a right to take up space, and so it makes me struggle against it. Do I have to build a life to have a right to be here?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you're saying, but
No.
can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and I will say that is kind of the tagline that Dr. Marsha Linehan developed. So I'm not going to take credit for it. But I think building a life worth living has a future focus that many of our clients have given up a positive future focus, you know, um, and and I think that helps clients think that there is life beyond their disorders, their conditions that have brought them into treatment, right? And helping them start to make meaning. So there's that kind of existential piece of it. Okay. And to your point, though, this is my tweak on that is, you know, one has to believe that they are worthy. And I've worked with a lot of people who have felt this profound worthlessness, a lot of communication from their family of origin that they're the problem, right? And so I want them to first discover, even as what you're talking about, as, you know, I am worthy to hold space. Why do I have to build it? It's more so because I am enough, I can, right? And that mean I can build a life that is worthy on my terms, you know. But we also can look at that the path that many of our clients, even though these are initial coping solutions that they, you know, if they've engaged in self-harm and things like that, we can say that's the wisdom of your survival, but it is only short term. Okay. And life is, our goal is to get them out of life being something to survive and for something to live fully in, because they are worthy to live. Right. So that's kind of the mindset that we're working on. I hope that helps clarify kind of where I am. I can't speak for the Linehan camp, but that's where I am in understanding what she meant by that.
That's why I like to talk about building a meaningful life, because I feel like, I mean, the research shows, right, that happiness comes from meaning, from feeling a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning in your life. And I feel like that helps people want to stick around when
Yes.
they feel a sense of meaning.
Yes.
Yeah, I also just wanted to tell you, Jeffrey, when he was in my groups, was the famous one for saying, or maybe not, Marcia.
Right. Hey, I mean, but that's the dialectical, you know, you got to get
It's a
into
very
it, right?
dialectical approach.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. And, you know, and of course she certainly was in, you know, her foundation for developing DBT was to help those who were chronically suicidal, right? So is there any worth to living? Yes, was her, you know,
Answer.
response to that. Yeah.
See, Michelle says, absolutely. Marcia often adds building a life, quote, experienced as worth living. Of course, all life is worthy, but but do we feel like it's worth sticking around for? I've been extremely encouraged by the phrase because at the time, life didn't feel worth living, but knowing I had the power to build it really helped me. And John says, I really like this. Thank you.
Yes.
Jeffrey says to thrive instead of to survive. Just reading the chat. John says, is there a reframe that allows space for mindfulness to be used as a method for appreciating the life we have as worth living? Right. So it's not just future focused, but like right now it is worth living, even as we strive to be more effective every day at meeting our needs. It may feel like we are near rock bottom.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely critical. You know, mindfulness is indeed the skill of the present moment, right? I love when she does say that present moment realities influence future probabilities. So, you know,
Wait, I have not heard that one.
oh yes, that's in her her
Present, she's
dissertation.
present moment reality influences
Future probabilities.
probabilities. Can you break that down for us?
Yes. So, what we do right here and now, right, will determine, for better or for worse, what our future, the trajectory is most likely going to be. So, if I'm super anxious about studying because I'm anxious that I'm going to fail, if I don't start studying, it is most likely I'm on the path to failing. Right. And so being here in the present moment, whatever I need to do to manage my anxiety so that I can study increases the probability that I have the best chance of passing. Right. So, you know, I think it's very important to think about building a life worth living starts now in each moment. Right. And sometimes the life worth living right now is just inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale.
Oh, I feel that. Anyone want to inhale, exhale?
Yes.
Inhale together, breathing in and exhale.
Yes. Yes. I do a mantra with my clients that is, I am here, I am safe, I am whole.
Oh, I
And
love
it's
that.
and it's so important, right? It's so important to remember that.
Well, let's do it together. You want to lead us? We'll just repeat after you.
Okay. So let's just first take another cycle of breath together. So inhaling, exhale. If it helps to make contact with the body, with the heart, the belly, or just being aware of your body. Let's inhale again. And as you inhale, exhale, saying, I am here.
I'm here.
Inhale and exhale, I am here.
I'm here.
Inhale, exhaling, I am safe.
I am safe.
Inhaling, exhaling, I am safe.
I am safe.
Inhaling, exhaling, I am whole.
I am whole.
Inhaling, exhaling, I am whole.
I am whole.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So technically we're supposed to stop now, but I just wanted to check if anyone else has a question for Eboni before we lose her. Well, for today anyway.
Yes. I'll be here.
Anyone else
Yes.
have a question or a thought or a response? You know, one thing that I love doing with my groups, and maybe we could do this, is doing takeaways, where everyone shares something that they're taking with them from the session. And then sometimes that gives me a chance to elaborate just a little bit more on an idea. Are you open to doing that? Does that sound good? So Jeffrey, do you want to share your takeaway?
My takeaway is gratitude for Ebony's work. I mean, it's certainly, especially if you work with a lot of adolescents, and it's such an important population. And I just want to, I think I learned some things through this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you want to share a takeaway?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. I was really intrigued when you said the please skill was your favorite, because it's one that I often just kind of overlook and think, it's just take care of myself, which I'm terrible at. And so diving into it and really going into it further was wonderful. My one really big takeaway that I wrote down is how we treat our body, so our emotions go. That quote really resonated with me.
Yes,
So thank you so much for your time.
You're so welcome. So
Michelle.
welcome.
John, do you want to share your takeaway?
Sure. I mean, I feel like so much of what you said was profound and inspiring, and I'm looking forward to going back to recording. I think the piece that, like, well, Sylvia, on your idea of saying that taking care of yourself, your mind and your body is just such a a worthy aim unto itself. And I like how you don't need anybody or anything else to do that. You're in control of that. And I really liked I think when you said you talked to your clients about just that their mindfulness around the rest and exercise and hydration, all that stuff, that's like important enough to almost like celebrate and think about and talk about themselves, and really I'm gonna hold on to that and think about that a lot.
I love that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, John. Ani, do you want to share your takeaway?
Yes, this is really nice. And I think it's finally the police skill clicked for me after this session. And like, just like Michelle was saying, it wasn't something that it was like in background, but yeah, especially the fact that you were talking about cardio and exercise, I didn't even, I guess, made the connection, the police skill exercise, because it's so in the end. one of my personal, like it makes such a huge difference. So I feel like first time I was like fully like in-depth understanding the play skills importance. So thank you very much.
I love that. That's literally why I wanted to do these spotlight on skills with another therapist with their
So fun.
perspective, right? So because I feel like, when you hear things from different people in different ways, it lands differently. That's really important. It's really important. Brittany, did you want to share your takeaway, sweetie? It's okay if you don't want to speak up. That's totally fine. Kelly, did you want to share your takeaway? You can also, Brittany already shared it in the chat. Thanks.
Okay.
This really made me comforted and grateful. Thank you for sharing that life is worth living, and actually made me tear up as well. But happy tears. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Brittany.
Beautiful.
Kelly, did you want to share a takeaway?
Yes, I appreciate your work also, Ebony. It's very enlightening, and I know for myself, just having such busy days, flying through my days sometimes, that even though I have good intentions, just being mindful every day of what it is, how I'm nourishing my body, and what is that doing, what am I reaching for? And such interesting stuff you mentioned about abuse and the things I never thought of. So that's very interesting. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Isn't it lovely? Our takeaways so lovely.
They are. I love it.
It's my favorite part. It's my favorite part of any gathering. Really. All right. Thank you so much, Ebony. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we wrap up?
I'll share this really quick. Okay. So please think about these skills as the roots to your tree. And think about the image of the ginkgo biloba tree. The ginkgo biloba tree it's always a symbol of health and wellness, but it's very specific because the ginkgo biloba tree has some of the deepest roots of any other tree. So much so that even though it originated in China, they found after many ice ages, it had such deep roots that when it eventually did migrate to Japan, it was the only tree that remained after the Hiroshima bombings. All the other trees were decimated, but it was able to come back, and it's celebrated as the survivor tree in Japan. And so I take from that your stories, no matter how harsh they are, as you use these skills, you are digging deep roots that will allow you to thrive in whatever situation comes. And that's why we practice the plea skills as daily vitamins, right? So if you can keep that in mind, sink deep with those roots on a daily basis. Okay. So there we go.
Wow, that was really. Anyone get chills about this tree surviving Hiroshima?
It was. It's the only one that was able to come back. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, so we're gonna keep sinking those roots deep.
Sink them down. That's right.
Survivors.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Diana. It's such a pleasure. So wonderful.
Thanks for spending your Sunday evening on Father's Day with us.
Hey.
So the dads, happy Father's Day, John and Jeffrey.
Yes.
And any other dads that might be lurking in the background.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Thanks so much, Ebony.
All right. Thank you. Alrighty. Bye-bye.